Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie and I'm delighted to be joined by Nick Dellis, Senior Vice President of International and Strategic Sales at Five9. Nick, thanks very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Charlie. Thanks for having me on today. Appreciate it. That was a mouthful for a title, by the way. So thank you for being able to spit that out today.
That's excellent. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. And it's a very important topic that we have to discuss, and that's kind of how contact centers can best prepare for the upcoming holiday season, especially those in busy sectors such as retail, travel, hospitality, and more. But I think maybe let's kick off by breaking this topic up and approaching it from the perspective of the three critical contact center stakeholders, so the agents and employees, the customers, and the wider business itself. What challenges can these three stakeholders expect during this busy time of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So those pillars are definitely the key, right? So the first is I always like to start with the consumer or the actual person that's contacting the entities. If you look across the board, it doesn't matter what industry, there's been this frustration over the last couple of years that they want instant service. So the consumer, the customer, whatever you want to call them, the client, they're looking for that instant service experience. And that instant service experience means that you as a company need to prepare by having the right data in the right hands. So, these data lakes, artificial intelligence that goes behind it, plus the right handling of the customer experience is very important. And then on top of that, you also have the culture. The cultural piece is very, very important around it too. So how do you want that customer experience to be? So that consumer is expecting so much. And I always say one bad experience can lead to a lost customer for life. And that's very key. So as you go through that journey, you start to get to the agent. And the agents are, needing to get smarter and smarter. And I always talk about how you take an agent and make them a much more effective agent by giving them a lot more tools in their toolbox. So as that consumer comes through the communication channels, whether it's digital or voice, the agent has all the right tools in their place to be able to have a great intellectual conversation. The one thing I always hate as a consumer, and I try to have as many experiences as possible, whether it's in retail or an airline industry or hospitality, whatever it happens to be, is I always gauge on how that communication experience is. And the last thing I want to know is somebody to go, oh, and I'm sorry, who are you? And what information, can I gather from you so I can give you a better experience? Well, you know who I am. You have that information already. There's a ton of data on me already within your system. So, make sure you treat me special. So that agent's really key because it helps with the burnout, especially in the busy times as we're talking about the holiday season. You want to be able to have the right information to give that great customer experience. At the same time, the business needs to have the real-time information to be able to make decisions. So, we've been planning with retailers and other industries, since the middle of the year to be ready for the holiday season. So they might have the people there and able to do it, but what if there's an influx? What if something happens? In the airline industry, it's weather changes, canceled flights, things like that. In the retail business, maybe there's a hot product for the year and everybody wants to go get it. So you get inundated, through e-commerce or, through brick and mortar buildings with calls. So there are a lot of the unexpected that happens. That real time data is really important so that you can pivot your agents, your experience to be able to bring the right experience for your customer. So all that together, I believe, is the key. It's not about a technology, but it's really about having the right data that supports the consumer, the business, and the agent to give them a better experience.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's great. I think there's lots of great insight into the kind of the problems that contact centers can face in terms of a lack of context that agents have at their fingertips when these kind of when these big influx of call volumes come in. And for many years, contact centers have applied various solutions. Such as kind of recruitment drives, maybe relaxing their service level a little bit, IVR containment. But now, kind of with this kind of new data that you mentioned at the end there, and kind of the AI now that can kind of be built upon that, and the models that are becoming much more practical, is how can maybe AI help businesses in these busy times?
That's a really good question. And it does help. It does help a lot, especially with the volume fluctuations. There's a true balance between human and digital agents. And when I say digital agents, using AI or, automation, things like that. So there's a true balance. So what is the balance? The balance is, well, first of all, you have to think about it from a cultural perspective. And then you also have to think about it from the consumer's, point of view. So if you have to think about things like, well, how does somebody feel if this conversation was taken and thrown into an automation or into a self-service environment? Does that increase the level of frustration, or is it something that helps alleviate the issue by giving more information to the agent's fingertips and the business's fingertips to make intelligent decisions? So let's take we'll go outside of the realm of retail, airline, hospitality, all that, but look at the insurance industry. Imagine somebody trying to take an automated experience, and you had a death in the family, or your house just burned down, or there was a bad snowstorm and the roof collapsed, or something that was traumatic. You don't want to take that experience and bring it into an automated experience. You want to bring that to a more empathetic experience. And I know that AI is really starting to get smarter, more intelligent, gain a little bit more empathy. But the reality of it is that there's a true high value conversation that has to happen. And, so there's a balance between that human and digital agent. On the other side of things, there's a lot of stuff that can get taken care of through automation and artificial intelligence. Return merchandise authorizations in the retail industry. It's one of the biggest issues that retailers face, especially during the busy season. So if you think about the busy season, somebody goes out, they go and shop for something, maybe buy it online. And, really that's something that all the data is at the fingertips. So you can use all that automation and AI to be able to gain a really great experience, have something returned, and then you deflect a live agent. So you can use that live agent for a high value conversation. So, where is the balance here? It all is based on culture. So, how do you think your customer wants to be treated? And that comes from the top down in an organization. So, how does that retailer, that airline, the whatever industry you're in, the hospitality industry, hotel, want to treat that individual? So, I do believe that there is a true balance. And the last thing is it starts with great data.
Yeah.
So the fallacy here is that it's AI that's doing everything, and that's true. But if you don't have the right data in place, you don't have that big data lake put together, you don't have the consolidation of data in one area, it makes it really tough for that learning engine to really, to sit there and learn and be able to bring that great experience that you're looking for from automation and from AI. So I believe that we have to look at that strategy also, as well as the culture that's behind all this.
Yeah, and I think that's a particularly interesting point. I mean, if you look at contact centers for many years, the what many have tried to do is detect their most common contact queries, for example,
Mhm.
and then evaluate those and kind of apply either conversational AI or fix the issue upstream to kind of first and foremost. And yet that data has often been so difficult to kind of get right. And now it's now kind of with, I mean, even Gen AI is helping with this a little bit, and that's maybe another topic. Now it's much easier to kind of get that clean data, and all of that logic still applies. But as you said, the data behind it is now much better, and the tools as well are great. But maybe kind of stepping outside of AI now a little bit, what other steps would you recommend that contact centers take to better prepare for kind of those peaks in contact volume, whether that's from the kind of for Christmas uptake or kind of the insurance spikes that you mentioned there, or I don't know, utilities companies when the water freezes in their pipes and they burst all of a sudden? What sort of advice would you apart from kind of the AI give to those companies?
Well, and you can start with the retailers, first of all. So they've been preparing for a long time. We have a lot of retail customers around the world. So whether you're looking at e-tailers in Latin America, or retailers in the UK, Ireland, all the areas there, they're all prepared ahead of time. What they're not prepared for is the unpreparable things, the unforeseen circumstances. Uh, and part of that is using the right tools to be able to see, do you have the right staffing in place? Are you working with a workforce management solution? Is the deflection of calls proper? Culturally, what are you looking for? As you start to see a more of a transition from brick and mortar into more of an e-commerce, you're also seeing a lot of people that want to touch and feel things. So you're starting to see more of a customer experience where they're coming back into brick and mortar a little bit too. So there is a balance there. That experience has to be consistent. And think about this, there was a really great study done across different financial sectors. And inconsistency of experience was one of the biggest areas that consumers complained about. You have one experience where it's in the brick and mortar, you have a different experience what's in the e-commerce. Those two aren't communicating, you get different answers, and nobody's actually trying to resolve the issues. So it's not really about first call resolution, but it's more about first experience and how that experience is taken across all those channels. And it's really a balance between all those areas. So I'd say that the first things that the retailers need to look at is culturally what is acceptable. What are they looking at for a great experience? I've had a lot of experiences all over the world, spending time in retailers, whether it's in the UK, whether it's overseas or in Iberia or whatever. And the one area that I look at is how do they treat me when I come into a location versus how do they treat me, online? So do they have the right applications in place? Are they offloading me too quick? Is it something where I'm not gaining the right experience? So culturally, that's the first place that they have to look at. And preparation for that starts early. As the rush comes across, it's really balancing it with the right tools to make sure the right people are in the right places. And there's a balance between deflection and having the right agents to be able to handle the conversations. And then putting the right tools in place. It's not about, like you said, it's not about AI. There's a little bit of that in there. But if you look at a great experience, it's actually closing the loop. So closing that communication loop is very key because you start to build loyalty as you go across. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether it's an airline and retail, whatever. Closing that loop is important. You've had the conversation, the issue's been resolved or communicated, and now it's really time to start to open another communication loop so you can keep a happy customer. So if I were to look at some of the key points is what is your cultural, what is your cultural strategy? Number one. Number two, is that what your customer is looking for? Because you can have the strategy and your customer is looking for something completely different. You have to mesh those two together. And then finally, what are the tools that you need to provide inside an organization to be able to handle the needs that you're looking to execute on?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of great points. So just a final question, maybe on that last point. Obviously, you kind of work for a big CCaaS vendor. What sort of tools are you seeing your customers really leverage now to prepare for this holiday season?
First of all, they're all freezing their technology. so everybody's in a technology freeze in the retail sector, in the hospitality sector, and even in airlines and stuff, insurance. Everybody during the holiday season, they always like to see that. So technologically, they're not trying to deploy the tools. The
Yeah.
tools that they've already prepared for, we're seeing a lot more tools around getting real time data and real
Mm.
time analytics to folks. So being able to take the insights of conversations and gain trending across that. So speech analytics is really kind of a hot thing that's right now. Artificial intelligence is kind of a play around the conversational AI piece that we were talking about. But if you look at the back end, there's a lot of data artificial intelligence. So right, data mining, really seeing all the trending that's going on there, being able to make intelligent decisions for the business ahead of time. So that way they're looking at what's going to happen and what's happened historically so that they can gain that great experience. So I believe that it's all about data and everybody is preparing for the holiday season by having the right information and changing the way that they're approaching their customers because of that.
Mm, absolutely. I think that's maybe a great place to end the conversation. But it was great to talk to you today, Nick. Certainly learned a lot. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Appreciate the time today.
Absolutely, and also thanks to everybody for watching. Bye for now.